in this different areas than we normally am. I am in New Orleans for the Super Bowl, Radio Row, or Media Row as they call it now, and you can see some commotion behind me and the lights. There's definitely some commotion, so I'm going to monitor my voice at times because I have other media outlets around me. But how are you, my man? Yeah, it's like walking on the moon, right? We all know where we were when such significant occurrences happened. And in all seriousness, it's been a lot of fun. This is my 7th radio or Super Bowl coverage media week out of the last 8 years. So I skipped the first year after COVID, I believe, when Mahomes lost to Tampa to Tom Brady. So that year I did not go. But it's been fun. And as you would imagine, gambling and betting on the Super Bowl, the props, all that conversation has changed over the years. And I honestly think this year is the most subdued as it's ever been, and for logical reasons, right? The novelty is worn off, right? Like, we can gamble every day in 40 plus states. We can bet props every day. So the shock value and sort of the hall pass that media had for prop betting and for betting that week of the Super Bowl is no longer necessary. So people are sort of desensitized just to the novelty of it all. And on top of that, you got the 5th appearance for the Chiefs, the 2nd time these two teams have met. So there's a little bit of disinterest / fatigue on the game, even though it should be a very competitive game. And these basically have been the two best teams the last 2 months.
Yeah, not only is there fatigue, I was in this elevator the other day, and it was what does it say? Like, what are you most excited about with the Super Bowl? And it was like commercials. It was the teams, and so it's commercials, it's the Eagles, and then it was snacks before Kansas City Chiefs. Like, that's pretty funny to me. But with that said, I'm excited to get into the game, to be honest. I think there's a lot of different angles, and for someone like me who normally do not do player props, I'm excited to do them. I do them every Super Bowl, a few that I like, and so I love to just dive into it. For those who are just jumping on for the first time, or you've been, on this show with us for the entire season, we have been doing this every Thursday from 1 to 2. There were little changes there depending on, scheduling or holidays or something like that. But for the most part, we've done this every Thursday. We've got great feedback. We've loved all the engagement you guys have given us. If you guys want to check out from a DubClub perspective our free trials, we are giving out 3-day free trials. If you click on the comment section, you'll see the links there to sign up for Doug and for myself. Again, that's free. It doesn't hurt you at all. Just sign up. And then if you like it, continue to follow us. And then the second thing is, let us know if you guys have any questions. Feel free to put them in the chat. We will get to them. And Doug has, players and celebrities all around him. So he's going to be able to pull anybody he wants if you guys want to. So excited for this show, and I'm excited to not only to discuss Super Bowl and the ultimate winner and all that, but if you guys have football or questions around baseball, basketball, the NBA trade deadline just passed, just let us know and we're going to get to it.
And this show, just coincidentally on the week, has been some of our best days for each of us. Thursdays have been, we were on a run a couple weeks ago, 9-0, but I know you had a big January, I had a big January, so things are trending in the right direction. I've had a good NFL season. I believe there were some stats that went out in an email blast, so hopefully that we finish strong in the game. So obviously we have some plays for tonight, and we'll get into that, and I have a big play in college hoops tonight. But let's talk about the Super Bowl, because that is the focal point. And in terms of the props, and I'm glad you're going to roll up your sleeves, because I talked about the desensitization, but it's also the craft of doing the props by the odds maker has gotten better. The fact that they've had to do so many every day the last handful of years, so the sports books don't get caught with their pants down, so to speak, with 1,000 props or whatever it is. They're used to doing these props, and they know how to think like the bettors do, and so the market does tighten up a little bit, but every matchup's different. And I found some good ones just talking to other people in the industry and some odds makers and pro bettors. I'm excited about this game. Now, I don't have a ton, but I have some good, I believe, opportunities. What's your read on the game?
Man, it's hard. You kind of opened it by saying the last time that you did this was when Mahomes played Brady. And I mean, my rule right now in every big game is you basically just bet Mahomes unless he plays Tom Brady. Well, Tom Brady is still retired. He's not playing for the Eagles. I think right now that's where I'm leaning, Doug. I know, we talk principles and strategies and how we, read the market, how we read the lines, and also all the simulations that whether you're a math guy or not, you may do. But one of the things that I've harped on all season was I don't like short favorites, and I know Kansas City right now is a -1.5, and usually that's a layoff for me. But I think right now I'm leaning Kansas City. What about you?
So I'm on the other side, but it's a lean. I haven't pulled the trigger. I know a very influential bettor about a week ago tried to bet $1 million at one book on the Eagles, and this guy moves the market, and they only took 200K, and that's why the market moved from 1.5 to 1. We talked to one odds maker at the time. He thought, and this speaks to hopefully for your sake, is that he thought Eagles would close 1. Now we haven't seen that shift yet, but he thought the public coming in this coming weekend. So we'll see. So maybe you will be opposite the short favorite by kickoff is the reason I brought that up. But
Yeah.
I like the Eagles. Look, I often adopt a principle of which wager will you feel less dumb about if you made, right? I would feel less dumb about betting on Mahomes and losing than I would betting against him. But I will say this, for all this narrative about Mahomes, and I get it, last year the Niners had 4 or 5 plays to ice the game, and Mahomes was on the sideline. It's just Brock Purdy couldn't ice the game. Even the Bills, for all the questionable officiating and everything, they had the ball down 3 with 3.5 minutes to go and didn't execute. The Eagles are very solid, and I think what was so key for them against Washington is going to be key for them against Kansas City, and that's being able to apply pressure on Mahomes, the quarterback. So it's Daniel's last game, this one, without having to blitz. And so Jalen Carter and company, these guys will be super, super influential in the secondary. So I'm throwing out the last game that they played in the Super Bowl just because the field was so terrible and they had 73 points combined, 38-35 your final. I think it's going to be a much more normal situation and predictable in terms of or conventional, I should say, won't be a crazy game with defensive players falling down and everything. So I lean to the Eagles. I think, look, Brady didn't win every Super Bowl either. Ironically, like his best Super Bowl is one of the games he lost when Nick Foles out, the Eagles put up all those points. But Mahomes is beatable, so to speak. He was injured in that Brady game. But again, last year there were opportunities. The Niners were the better team. But again, I will feel dumb if I bet the Eagles and lose because, we have enough evidence to not do that.
Yeah, my reply to that, you're right. Mahomes is beatable, but we've been saying that all season long, right? They're like 13 straight wins in one possession, one score games. He just finds a way to win, and not only he does, but I think the team and the coaching staff just knows how to play fourth quarters better than everybody else, right? So it's a lot more than just Patrick Mahomes. With that said,
right.
The issues, or I'd say that the lack of weapons that he had to start the season, I don't think it's reality anymore, because I do think he has 2 horses in the backfield now with Hunt and Pacheco back. He has DeAndre Hopkins. He has Hollywood Brown. He has other guys there that can catch the ball on the outside. And then we all know, although Travis Kelce didn't have a great championship game in the AFC Championship, he's still one of the best, if not the best, postseason performers with Noah Gray and other weapons as well. So that's more than what Mahomes has had in the past, where he has won Super Bowls. I think it's more than enough. To me, it's really going to be dependent on Jalen Hurts. I know a lot of people are throwing out the previous Super Bowl when they met, but that was basically Jalen Hurts' best game of his life, right? We've never seen him play that well, not only throwing the ball, but running the ball. I don't think he can emulate that, because I think the KC defense will be more prepared. And I also think Philly is going to lean less on Jalen Hurts, obviously, just because they have Saquon in there. They're going to be one-dimensional, in my opinion, and that's why I lean Kansas City. But it's hard. It's basically you pick the winner here with this spread, and I can make an argument for both sides. I did get both championship games right, and I said if the Eagles blow out Washington, which they did, I thought they were going to be 1 or 2 point favorites heading into the Super Bowl. And if Doug is correct, if that's the kickoff line, I'm going to like my Kansas City with the points even more.
Yeah, no, I was just relaying a conversation I had from an odds maker a week ago, so we'll see if it materializes. I'm indifferent, but the public did show up fading Kansas City on Buffalo, so if the public's going to do that this weekend, then I think that most of the, but there's sharps on both sides of this game, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I guess my pushback on some of this is, you're not really, the, the Bills with 13 seconds left did a touchback. That's McDermott being a bozo. That's not Mahomes. Now, he did throw a couple passes to get them into field goal position, and Mahomes can't do everything. It's not an individual sport. But there are times where it wasn't about Mahomes. It was extenuating circumstances like Purdy missing a guy in third down last year and things along those lines. So if you believe in the Eagles' ability to execute and their coaching or whatever you want to call it, then it's not just about beating Mahomes. But he's going to show up, and I agree with you that they played the marathon, not a sprint approach. So Kelsey was in bubble wrap most of the year, and he's going to have a big game. And I actually bet him before conference title game at 40-1 to win the game, the Super Bowl MVP. So I took a chance that they would lose. But sitting at 40-1, I think just given the relatively, by his standards, pedestrian numbers of Mahomes this year, there is a path, not likely, but path, where he would not win MVP in a Kansas City win. Like, I would not just blindly take Mahomes MVP if I liked the Kansas City side.
Yeah, out of Brady's 7 Super Bowls, he wasn't MVP all 7 times. So it happens where, the running back or a defender, or whatever the case may be. So I agree with Deion Branch. Let's get into some of the props. I'll start with my first look here, and it's going to be on the Kansas City side. We kind of mentioned him a couple shows ago. My challenge was, who's the number 1 running back? Is it Kareem Hunt or is it Isaiah Pacheco? But we both agree that the threat in the backfield when it comes to the passing game is Samaje Perine. So I actually like Perine over receiving yards in this game, because I think there's going to be some moments in the game where it goes off script, and that's where Perine really does well. So I like the Perine over reception yards. I don't have the exact number. I'll defer to you there, Doug, but whatever the number is, I like him to have a pretty solid game.
It's 7.5 now. That was a big play for me in the last 2 games. The division round, he did not get a pass, and then the last pass of the AFC title game, he did go over it. So, I did salvage a split there. But I agree, he's there. The snap count for all the third downs is off the charts. And to your point, with the pressure of the Eagles, there's going to be some times where he's going to have to dump off. It won't be just a designed pass like that game clincher out of the backfield was in the AFC title game. So I can get behind that. One bet that got a lot of popularity in the last game that I think is going to carry over to this one is Xavier Worthy over rushing yards. It's in the neighborhood of 5.5. It was 3.5 in the AFC title game. And it's about the linebacker situation with the Eagles. And I've talked to some people out here more plugged into the Eagles, and look, they got to keep key linebacker out, another one who can't go wide to wide, and that's what you want to do to at least soften this pass rush. They're going to want to go north-south. You want to go sideline to sideline with them, at least early and frankly often potentially to do that, and Worthy's going to do that. Now keep in mind, for those watching the game and hanging on every play, a pop pass, which is a shotgun, and then Mahomes just tips it, and if they run in front, that's a pass. So that's, pop pass, be careful. But there's the end around conventional. There's the pitch where he might intercept it and catch a pitch and some misdirection. So with these elite defensive coordinators, Fangio and Spags, they're going to want to do stuff that's not on tape. So I think incorporating Worthy in the running game. So I could see him having multiple carries for sure in this game.
Yeah, when it comes to Worthy rushing yards, we know C.J. Gardner-Johnson is going to tackle. I don't think we have to worry about that. He likes the physicality. He likes tackling. But what they're going to challenge, and I think Andy Reid is smart enough to do this, is he's going to see if early and often is Darius Slay going to get dirty, or the other corner is going to get dirty. And I think the way to really kind of test that is the Worthy jet sweeps or end around. So I like that a lot too. Plus 5.5. That's just one carry, right? If he just breaks one through the hole, that's a first down, 10, 12 yards easy.
Yeah, DraftKings has 6.5 minus 103 on the over.
Yeah.
So I think it's I've asked a couple people I respect, and that's the first play they came up with, and I was like, I'm already on that. I need some others, and so we're kicking the tires. But it seems to be a pretty logical choice. I guess sometimes when I see something that everyone likes and I do too, I think, all right, well, if I'm an odds maker, so if I think it's bettable at 5.5, 6.5, and I'm an odds maker, what do I make it? 11.5? I mean, do I go to 9.5? I mean, what would get me off of it? And probably, I think it should be like 9.5. I really do. I mean, if you had 3 carries in the last game, I think 9.5 is probably the right number.
Yeah.
Because you run the risk he has 0. I mean, that has to be part of the equation, right? There's injuries. I believe Gainwell or someone got hurt in the last time they faced each other. There's always the running back injury. Game script. Maybe they fall down, a pick six, or they're throwing a lot more. So there are things that can go awry. So I think 9.5, maybe 8.5 I would do, but I wouldn't do 6.5 minus 0.3. So I think it's a worthwhile play.
The other risk when you're talking about wide receiver rushing yards is not only 0 but minus yardage, right? If you're going to do a jet sweep and there's penetration on the outside, they're going to lose 2, 3, or even 4 yards. So that's really, really hard to come back from. What other props are you looking at, Doug?
So my favorite prop, it's like minus 130, 140. Part of the reason I like it is because it's a sweat all game. But I do think it's a really good bet. And it's, will the game be tied again after 0-0? So 3-3, 7-7, 20-20 at any point during the game. Now, keep in mind that they mentioned this in the fine print, but let's say a team is up 6 and they score a touchdown and then kick the extra point to go up 1. The 6, when it's tied, that between the touchdown and the extra point doesn't count. It's the whole scoring situation. So if you're down 7 and they get 6 plus 1, then it's a tie. But I just think with both teams' willingness to go for 2. So, I mean, we saw this with the Bills and Ravens, right? Ravens go down, score 7-0. Bills come back. Mid-first quarter, they can easily kick a field goal, take the points, and they don't. They go for it, and end up tying the game 7-7. I understand if you're down 3 and you go a touchdown, you go up 4, and then you're kind of need some stuff to go your way. But given the nature of these teams to be willing to go for 4th down, the game script, I think it's going to be a super tight game. Officiating sometimes helps teams that are losing. I think it's a fun sweat, and honestly, if you factor in in-game wagering and live draft props or drive props, so it's some places call it lightning props, you can have sort of good positions if it's late and they're going to drive for a touchdown and whatever. You can sort of yes/no score on this drive. So there are some fun things you can do with that position, but I do think it's going to be a really tight game. And I would take my chances, even at minus 140, that it's going to be tied again at some point.
Yeah. So, Doug, we have about 30 minutes left on the show. I think it would be really cool if we, dive away from the NFL for a little bit. Just tease it so, people stay around and we get to the ultimate decision in terms of the winner and also the totals. But I'm looking at the NBA
and
tonight.
I will say I have a 13-1 prop that I really, really like, plus
1,300. You guys got to stick around for that.
I'll give at the end.
Yes, you guys got to stick around for that. Again, guys, thank you for jumping on today. Doug and I, we've been doing this all season long. Thursdays, if you want to check out our free plays, definitely go to the link on Twitter. You can see the comments. You can see Doug's DubClub. You can see my DubClub. And you get 3 days for free, which includes football, NFL stuff. So definitely check that out. I want to start with the NBA. I know you wanted to do college hoops, but there's one play I'm looking at. It's the LA Clippers. They just got blown out by LeBron, who was showing out for Luka. It's probably like his best two-way game all season long. He was playing defense, which is crazy to see. But I think it's a great bounce-back spot for the Clippers, who are playing the Pacers. So every time you see the Pacers, it's basically a potential get-right game for the offense. And I think the Clippers are going to be able to get out and score. That's first and foremost. I think more importantly, because of Indiana's style on offense, I think the Clippers have the ability to shut them down. And honestly, we just saw the Pacers get shut down by Portland, who's on fire right now. But we do know the Clippers have the defensive capabilities to shut down anyone, and I like LA to come back tonight, bounce back.
I'm right there with you. I think it's a good spot. We talk about key numbers in the NFL so often in terms of 3 6, 7, 10 even. 5 is the most common margin of victory in the NBA. So not having to lay more, I think that number right there is key. But I do think the Clippers take care of business. They do have elite defense most of the time, and it's a long road trip for this Pacers team. And obviously, I would prefer Indiana coming off a win, but they go to Utah, win by 1. This is just it's a weird part of the season. I would also reinforce that. We're past the midpoint, okay, but we're not at the All-Star break yet. We're about a week away. So there is some, especially next week, there's some senioritis that kicks in, but there is an element of professional maturity and experience in these situations. And I think the Clippers, their veteran leadership, their depth, their experience, I think that's going to really come to fruition in these kind of situations. Not that Indiana's an immature team, but I do think that's a feather in their cap in this situation, this spot for the clip joint.
Yeah, the other situational spot here is the Pacers are going to be playing both LA teams. Everybody knows about the potential LA hangover, right? But they're going to be playing the Clippers tonight, and then they might see Luka's debut against the Lakers the very next game out. So it could be a potential spot where they're looking ahead. I don't know. Do you have any more NBA bets before I throw some questions regarding like the trades and the futures markets?
Yeah, so I usually do an NBA podcast. I did not do it today, so I did not put together my whole card. I've been working on it all day. It's tricky. You got to be really careful. Don't force stuff. All that good stuff. I really liked a couple spots yesterday. The Rockets, they grab my attention here. They have to get back on, track with this Minnesota team. It's just so thin right now, and they have trouble passing the ball. They're missing DiVincenzo and Randall. There's really limitations right now outside of Anthony Edwards. And so Minnesota, I want to fade them. They just had the nice win against Chicago, but they were down 15 early, and they had 2 back-to-back losses before that. And this Houston team is legit, man. And Sengun came back. The guy I've been writing, and I just did a story for the New York Post in this. This is a team off 4 losses in a row, including 2 to the Nets. So I think I just talked about how the tough part of the schedule, maybe that's rearing its ugly head. But I think catching the T-Wolves on back-to-back with the Rockets, I think this is when you back them. And then Amen Thompson, he's a poor man's Kawhi Leonard. Everyone's raving about him, a second-year forward. And his assists, he's been taking over the assists with Fred VanVleet out. The point guard, Reed Shepherd out of Kentucky, he's not quite ready. So that Amen Thompson, they're running the offense through him. So his assist props gone from 3.5, 4.5 to 5.5. But I would still bet over there. I think they're going to open up a can. I know the T-Wolves are elite defensively, but they're also down some key guys. So McDaniels are frustrated, but I like the Rockets here to take care of business. They have to. It's a must-win for them.
Yeah, I can't really talk you off of it. Minnesota just played one of the worst defenses in the NBA in Chicago. Super high pace. They don't really play a lick of defense, so it's easy I think Anthony Edwards ended up with 46 or 48 points. That's not what he's going to see tonight. He's going to see tough, physical, pick up full court type of defense with Amen and the rest of those boys. I like the Amen angle, but I would say even the sharper side, Doug, would be the over turnovers. Because if you see him in the fourth quarter, and I think he's great. He's actually one of my favorite players because I follow him. But in that fourth quarter, he had really bad turnovers, whether it's dribbling off someone's foot or whether he's fatigued and he's just throwing a pass out of bounds. Whatever that number is, because of his significant increase in usage today with all the injuries that Doug mentioned, I think the turnover angle is going to be great. And he's still going to have amazing numbers.
Where do you bet that? Where do you bet turnover props?
There's DraftKings has them and FanDuel has them. Yeah.
Okay, I have not seen them. Is that quick hit? Okay, I'll keep an eye out for those. But I think you're right. I think there's some growing pains with a guy like that who's going to have a guy like McDaniels in that wingspan. I believe he's 6'9". So there could be some growing pains on that front for sure. I was just texting an odds maker about some line moves. So Houston was -1, but now it's Minnesota -1. So I'm going to get some info on that in terms of why the market moved and things along those lines. But the spot screams Houston. It's hard to ignore it, but the math does not at that number. So something to keep in mind. What do you make of this Orlando Magic sort of unraveling? A team that we were, the world was, right? Jamal Mosley was up at, third favorite to win Coach of the Year, and there was such buzz. And as they've gotten their best players back, they've been an absolute disaster. So they did get the win last night in Sacramento. So I actually really like Denver tonight, minus the 7.5 or whatever at last check it is, because it's a good spot to fade Orlando. So there's 6.5, plenty in the market.
That's interesting that it's gone that way, because I looked at the same game last night and it was at -8, -8.5. So the fact that it's moved 2 points the other way is really interesting. But again, Orlando has to go into elevation against a team now. So Doug mentioned this is a weird part of the schedule, but I think this is where it separates the men from the boys, because I think the true contenders and the true superstars, this is when they kind of turn it on, in my opinion, and really make noise for whether it's all NBA or awards or playoffs or whatever the case may be. I think this is where they start separating themselves. And a team like Denver Nuggets and a player like Jokic, I think he likes to take care of business early and often. I would prefer the Denver Nuggets first half here because of the shock of elevation for Orlando. But you're right, this team is strange to really to get a read on, because it's almost like they played better and harder without their best players. And I'm not saying, they shouldn't have Paolo and Franz and those guys, but it's been a weird dichotomy because, some of their losses have been really, really, embarrassing, downright, to be honest. And there's no way I can back Orlando now until I see that they've turned a corner. So I agree with you, Denver. I don't know if I have it as an official play yet. The line movement is a little scary for me, but yeah, it makes sense that Denver would come out. So let's get into
what about the Laker game, real quick? What about the Lakers Warriors?
It's tough. I mean, none of the Luka's not playing and Jimmy Butler's not playing, right? That's confirmed.
Right. I definitely know Luka.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that the Lakers showed out on national TV against the Clippers, it's gonna be hard for me to go the Lakers side, because I just know the casual bettors are gonna be on that. It's mostly a layoff for me, and if it's a close game at halftime, that's probably when I would jump in. I think the Warriors, the under's a good play. The Warriors, I believe, are 0-20 when they go into the fourth quarter deficit, right?
I think
deficit.
1 and something, yeah.
Oh, 1 and something, yeah. So
it's pretty remarkable.
Another angle that's not going to change because their offense is horrible. So that's an angle I'm going to look at if I'm going to look into live betting that case. I wanted to ask you on because, I mean, today is the end of the trade deadline. Ton of moves this week. You are really good when it's about monitoring like futures markets, awards markets, things like that. Who do you think, or what bet really catches your eye right now after all these moves?
So not necessarily a byproduct of the moves, but I do think at some point there's going to be value on Jokic and the MVP. I don't think it's right now at plus 425, but I mean, injuries do happen, and we just saw this in the NFL, right? We had voter fatigue with the multiple previous MVP and reigning MVP with Lamar Jackson be below a guy whose turn it was to win in the standings, and we'll find out eventually, soon, but all-pro first team went to Lamar and not Josh Allen. So we think there's it's your turn moment, but Jokic is still averaging a triple-double, career highs. A lot can happen. I just think I'm not ready to pull the trigger plus 425, and I think it's malpractice to not bet Giannis at like 90 to 1 or 100 to 1. I just think something small, a fraction of a unit.
So on that note, on the Jokic perspective, when is it a buy point in your opinion?
So, I mean, just to put this in perspective, and I wrote another column in the Post about this for Monday. Like a few weeks ago, SGA went from minus 500 to minus 320 in one night because Jokic had like a fourth straight triple-double. Okay, can you imagine like a money line just randomly moving that way without any injuries? And then the next night, SGA had a buzzer beater, and then it moved back up. So we're led to believe that a buzzer beater in January is going to affect voters in April. mean, there's like 30 more games or something. So I don't know. I just think it's such a fickle market that it's a fake market is what it is. So
Yeah.
we need to at some point find value on the dog. I remember Rookie of the Year was Skeens, and he was like a 5-1 the last couple of weeks of the season. And so there's just it's speculation based on like quotes from media members and things like that. So at some point there's going to be value. I just don't know what it is, because the reason I can't answer that is because a lot will depend if Jokic goes for 40-point triple-double. It's all part of the equation, right?
Yeah.
But I just think this is not a foregone conclusion, and we literally just saw it in the NFL. So
Yeah, and
that's an awards market.
yeah, and we're coming off a week where I think Shea had 2 or 3 games, above 45 points within like 25 minutes of playing time. Like, he's been absurd, which hurts his value in terms of the future market. But it also, if he continues to do that, it's also going to raise the value, right? If you're going to look at the dog. So all of it, like you mentioned, is all, together. It's all connected. College hoops. You said there's one
Well,
that you really
but
love.
I guess in terms of the futures market, there's nothing that in terms of like the team success. I don't think it's like you got to grab the Mavs or you got to grab the Lakers. I don't think there's anything that's really standing out. I do think the East is wide open. The Celtics, things broke right for them. Obviously, if it's a one-game March Madness style bracket, I would not think the Celtics are a no-brainer. But 4 out of 7, the math's going to win. I know it could be a roller coaster. They could lay an egg like they did for the first 2.5 quarters on Sunday against the Sixers. But there is a path for a couple teams to emerge.
Yeah.
I mean, we know the Cavs are legit. We know the Knicks are legit. The Bucks, proof's still out, right? Gosh, who knows about the Sixers if they ever get it together, and the Pacers. So I just don't know if it's a foregone conclusion that the Celtics will emerge in that regard. In the West, I mean, obviously it's the Thunder, but I would not count out the Nuggets. I think Jokic could be that huge.
For me, the way that I've looked at it, and I haven't monitored the markets as closely as Doug has, but I like whatever the odds are for the LA Clippers, because I actually like teams that don't make moves, because I think there's a lot more value in that, because there's less narratives, there's less news, there's less noise around it, and from a basketball standpoint, there's more camaraderie, there's more, they're not shaking things up from a basketball point of view, and I think if a team is going to stay healthy, whether it's OKC with Chet coming back or Denver or the Clippers, I like the Clippers value in the best 7 series. I know it's hard to bet on a team that's never done anything right, but you're going to get to a point where they don't do anything until they do something right. And I think they have the pieces. People respect Ty Lue. People like Kawhi Leonard. Like, I think there's pieces there. And it would be, from a narrative perspective, the first year of Intuit Stadium, right? Kind of makes sense. And on the East side,
yeah.
Sorry, did you have a reaction to that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I just worry about Kawhi. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's such a shaky situation. So, to be honest, I think the market's tough with the Clippers at 12-1 to win the West. I prefer Houston and Memphis.
Yeah.
I mean, just saw what Memphis put up 85 in the second half. They're just an absolute machine, but bench is also shortened in the playoffs, and we'll see. But I think the Rockets, if Amen Thompson evolves at the same rate, it's almost like trading for a all-star late in the season if he becomes that kind of caliber. And I love their coach.
Yeah, he's an incredible player.
So those two guys, with the coaching of both those guys. By the way, I think Taylor Jenkins 30-1 to win Coach of the Year is not awful.
Yeah.
They're the 2 seed right now. Something to consider.
Yeah, and on the East side, I think what I wanted to get into is the top 3 teams, right? So Cleveland, Boston, and New York. If you had to choose one star player out of those 3 teams that you trust the most in the fourth quarter, so it's Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, and Jalen Brunson. I'm actually a Brunson guy when we're gonna splice it like that. I just believe that he's the clutchest of the 3, and I know postseason is different because it's not a 1-game series; it's best out of 7. And I'm a little worried about the Knicks' team defense. I thought they were going to be dominant. I thought defensively they were going to be dominant this year, even with Karl Anthony Towns. But their perimeter defense hasn't even been good. So that's something I'm worried about. But Madison Square Garden, fourth quarter, close game. I just believe in Brunson over anybody in that conference right now.
Yeah, I just worry about the minutes eventually catching up with them like they did last postseason. I'm going to sneeze pretty soon, so take it away.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is the
Live TV, baby.
NBA. No, you're good. So that's the NBA. I know Doug kind of teased us. He is looking at a couple spots in college basketball. What do you have for us?
All right, so this is something that I've been tracking. We know about the federal authorities with the gambling stuff and some of the alleged connection to the Jonte Porter stuff, but there's 3 college teams that were under scrutiny anyway. North Carolina A&T had to suspend 3 players indefinitely. Their next game was today, so they went a little bit, and so their 2 best scorers are out tonight, and they're already a pretty limited team. They're a 20-point underdog tonight, but I think the team total is the way to go. So they're facing College of Charleston. I mean, just for context, Ken Palm, which doesn't factor in the injuries, has their team total at like 21. Now this number's come down from 19.5 to 17, but that's because the over-unders come down. 2 full points on the first half, but team total I think is the edge.
17 in the first half?
No, sorry, I jumped around a little bit. So the game
Okay.
line was 19.5, moved to 17, okay?
Okay.
Then the actual first half over-under moved 2 points, but they only moved the team total of Charleston. So I think North Carolina AT&T 66.5 team total. I made it a really big play. Now you know what I do, and I send out plays on DubClub as well with the in-game. So I might play an in-game over to hedge and create a middle just to feed, as my buddy says, feed the machine a little bit. Feed the beast, he says. Feed the beast. It's because you don't want to be so greedy. Like it's a 10-unit play for me, so it's a big thing, but. I want to have like half of it back at like hopefully like over 55 or something. But Ken Palm had 71 points for North Carolina A&T. So with these 2 leading scorers to go down to 66.5 doesn't feel like enough to me. This is a team that's already pretty bad. I mean, they're 0-10 in the Colonial. Okay, they're 4-19 on the season.
Yeah.
Who knows what their real rating is if there's actually been, bad behavior with point shaving or whatever. So maybe the guys are that good, and they'll get a chance to prove it without the guys suspended, and then we just all have egg on our face. But Ken Palm has this 117, so 88-71, and that's a 159 total, and that's what the number. We have 151.5 because a very sharp syndicate released. So I sent out the play before anybody else. I was waiting for this day. I had it on my calendar, even my iPhone calendar. So I had it in the morning, and then somebody texted me. They're like, "It's so funny you released that because another syndicate had first half and game under. I just had team total." I could see both, but I'm just saying Ken Palm's only a handful of points. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And Ken Palm has it in a vacuum without the suspension. So. Look, I can't tell you too much about these teams. I just know really sharp guys who are eyeing this, and all my gathering of information, that's the play.
That's an amazing angle, man. That's why you're on this show. I mean, I'm definitely going to tail Doug blindly on this. So definitely check out his DubClub. That's a great segue. If you want to tail blindly on that and be on the team total under, definitely sign up with his DubClub so then you can get the live plays and potentially have middle opportunities.
Right, I'll be watching it. You got to listen to the pregame show. You got to listen to the announcement. Like, I'll be doing some kicking of the tires, but this could be a win-win for the Gipper, so to speak. I mean, they're 0-10, suspended. Like, I don't think Charleston's going to take. I don't know. I'll be able to feel it out and be able to maneuver and navigate the position and maybe build some middles and things like that. But this isn't critical stuff, so you got to be on top of it. But these are the opportunities, because if you talk to odds makers, and I do, and I've interviewed them, and this is not like secrets. They hate these games. Okay, they don't want Patrick Mahomes injured in the first quarter because they don't know the true power rating of these teams. They don't want 3 guys out for the Lakers and shells of teams. They just want both teams. They want Week 10 Cowboys Eagles -3 Sunday Night Football. Everybody full strength, just go. And then they know the power ratings. They know the true power ratings of these teams. The math, we talk about the casino, right? We know the math of a roulette wheel. We know the math of the craps table with the dice. We sort of know the math of these sports teams at full strength, right? We definitely know like moving parts of like a Colonial team that's 0-10, right? like that's when there's going to be edges for other bettors versus an odds maker. So this is the stuff that they don't. So this is when they're in theory opportunities in soft markets like the WNBA, preseason football. This is sort of in that category.
Is that the only college football look that you, or college basketball look you have tonight?
Yeah, like I had like yesterday, I had a bunch of people, on opposite sides, like both Washington and Nebraska. I laid off. There's been some bad beats this week, like the UCLA game, depending on when you got the number. I don't really love Maryland on the road. Ohio State has snuck in some impressive performances, so they're at home in terms of the big games.
I know this has been a theme. This has been a theme all show, but what about Player of the Year? Have you looked into that market in college hoops?
Right. So Broom was the favorite, and then he got hurt, and Cooper Flagg shot up. Right, and then this isn't. It's a good thing to remind people it's not a market of who's going to be the number one pick. But Flagg went up to minus 700, but then Broom's has been fantastic, and so I wondered when he came back earlier than expected. I wondered if there was value at plus $4. I did not fire it, so now it's like plus 250. The problem here is Flagg's performance is it's exponential, man. He's been playing so well. So this is not a guy like Ben Simmons or even Anthony Edwards who's going to get drafted 1 overall on potential. This guy was taking guys to school at the USA Team Select, right?
Yeah.
And he's showing out right now. So as much as the price might be mispriced, he might be too much of a favorite, I still think he wins. So he has come down to $4. It was $7. So he should probably be like $3,260 or something, but it doesn't mean you should bet the dog either. And maybe that's my PTSD, because last year I was against Zach Edey. Not that I didn't think he couldn't go back to back, but I just thought Filipowski had a shot, and I took some flyers on some long shots, and it ended up being just dead money. So I gotta be a little careful sometimes.
All right, let me level set real quick. We only have a few minutes left. I know, Doug, you have a lot on your plate, being there at Media Row. So 7 minutes left. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on. We're going to get into our NFL looks. I think Doug has a really nice, a couple plays that he wants to mention as well. And then for those who want to check out our free plays, I've mentioned this a few times already on the show, but definitely go to the comment section on the video. You can see the link to Doug's DubClub, and you can see the link to my DubClub. It's separate DubClubs. You get the whole weekend for free, no strings attached. So definitely just try us out. And if you like it, or if you have any questions, feel free to DM us, ask questions, and we'll definitely engage with you. So, all right, NFL,
Absolutely.
Super Bowl. Let's hear it, Doug. What's the home run play?
Yeah, so we like some crazy payouts, right? I had this the last time they faced each other, and I had talked to someone. It's funny, I shared this with a pro bettor a couple years ago when they played, and he reminded me of it, and I can't for the life of me remember who told me about this. They said the Eagles have something in their playbook with, like, Hurts going out for a pass. Kind of like a Philly special, basically. And I feel like in the last game, I should have watched the replay, but there was an end around or someone, like, slowed up to throw the ball, and the guy wasn't open, so he ran it. But I feel like you can get, and just to put this in perspective, some books have Will Hurts catch a pass, like plus 1,200, and then there's some other books that have Will Hurts or Mahomes catch a pass plus 1,200 or something. So just obviously, I think the 1,200 with both of them is a little off market. I do think these play callers have to do stuff that's not on tape, because his defensive coordinators are so thorough. Just seeing what Spagnuolo did on that fourth down blitz to Josh Allen. They called the timeout before they knew the play that was coming. So just that's how advanced we're talking about. So even though Mahomes, they put in bubble wrap and don't let him run sneaks, I think there's a scenario where he might catch a pass, maybe in the end zone so he doesn't get tackled. But, 13-1 range for either quarterback to catch a pass. And it's the Super Bowl. Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a little value there, but it's also a fun bet, and it can happen at any moment.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, so I love that bet. I think Mahomes is going to catch something. People forget how actually athletic and big Mahomes is, and he's going to be able to get open. The other thing that I wanted to mention is Doug has said this now all season long, but Kansas City, because of their experience, because of their pedigree and everything they've won in recent years, they do view a lot of this stuff as a marathon and not a sprint. But this is the Super Bowl. This is the final game of the year. This is the opportunity for them to make history, right? And win three straight Super Bowls. So I feel like Kansas City, and maybe I'm just being a little biased here. I felt like they just did just enough to win, even against the Bills, even in the divisional game. I know the Bills had a chance, right, with that catch there, but it again, maybe I'm giving Andy Reid and Mahomes and Kansas City too much credit here, but I still haven't seen them, you know, fire on all cylinders. And I feel like potentially we can get that in this game, but it's hard. Eagles are a great team. They have a great defense with a great defensive line, and then they have basically the silver bullet. It's because of their elite running game, they can keep Mahomes off the field. So it's
Right.
hard for me to pick the winner here, but I like the underdog. I
I
know
was
it's
just
not
about to ask,
fun.
do you have any opinion on the total?
Yeah, it's not fun to bet unders, especially in the NFL because you're cheering
Oh, it's fun,
against.
man. That's all I do.
Yeah, right. That's why we both have gray hair. But
Yeah.
I like the under here, and I think both teams are gonna feel each other out, especially in that first quarter. I know Doug does a lot of like first quarter betting, first half betting. I like the under first quarter and first half.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I was on the under the last time they played, and I'm just so upset with the stupid field. I mean, the pass rush, everything. It burned a lot of props. I had angles on. I obviously don't think the turf will be an issue this year, but we did see it in Brazil earlier, and that was annoying because I had flashbacks. I should have said this when I was talking about the Eagles. Like, not to be so nerdy and give a tutorial, but I really, and I said this before the AFC title game, and it ended up being the difference. If you're gonna bet the Eagles and it's plus 1.5, and I know we talked about maybe closing minus, like just wait. Like unless you think the Eagles will go wire to wire, and they might. They were up 10 in the last Super Bowl, and they could go, but like you should be able to get plus 3.5 at some point in the game against Kansas City. Um, these teams tend to play prevent victory when they have leads. We saw that with the Eagles and Rams a little bit. So I would not jump on plus one. That's why I'm a little uneasy. I just rather jump and take plus 3.5 in game. And if like it never go, let's say Eagles go wire to wire, so what? You missed one bet. You know, you still have props and still have other things. I do know a sharp guy who said he's playing Jalen Hurts over everything in terms of passing because they have played with leads the entire playoffs. But if there's a different game script and you can't just, so all these stats are a little misleading from past performance because the game script was just so favorable for Philly all postseason, where obviously Mahomes and the Chiefs are a different animal.
Yeah. Do you see a game script, or do you think there can be a potential blowout? Right. This spread is so small, point and a half, could be pick 'em by kickoff. These two teams are so good. They already met a few years
I
ago in
know.
the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, so no blowout is what you're saying.
Someone said if a team blows it out, who is it? And everyone's like, oh, if there's a blowout, it's Philly winning. Um,
Yeah,
I don't think so. I just think the defenses are too good, and then the offenses get conservative and play clock a little bit.
yeah,
Um, unless Saquon just like when they're playing conservative, just breaks one a bunch of times. I think Saquon under is probably a really good play. I talked to some people
yeah,
last night. They think he's going to get like 85 yards. Like they're
yeah.
like the Chiefs will not allow it. Um, and Hurts, wants to throw a little bit, and that might be the path to victory, so to speak. So
Agreed.
Saquon under, I'm probably going to be on Saquon under by kickoff. And
Yeah,
if he beats me, so what? I have him 20. Oh, that's the other thing. Before the playoffs, I played him 25-1 to win the Super Bowl MVP. So I have
yeah,
him and Kelsey these huge odds. So I might play Saquon under just because I think it's a good bet. Um, and it's never fun to root for that, but you're probably on the right side on the under there.
yeah. Those are great tickets to have, man. I'm excited to
Yeah.
to watch the game. And any final remarks? Any last things you want to say before you close this out?
No, I mean, I would just say, encourage people. This is like responsible gaming stuff. Like, you don't have to bet. Like, there's in-game. There's just you don't have to have a million bets. I mean, we have like I'll probably have more on like a second half NBA total that day. Just
Yeah.
and that's the thing. If this were a matchup, a high-profile matchup in the regular season, which is one of 12 games or so on a Sunday, I probably wouldn't be playing it. Obviously, there are more props offered, so there's going to be more opportunity. But it's fun. But we get to do this every day. So we're going to be back at it on Monday after the Super Bowl and some college hoops. Unless
Yep.
you really like some angles, just be careful out there. It's fun. I'm all for taking a shot, but I don't bet the heads, tails, and stuff. Some of the nonsense. Have an angle, and just you know, we're going to have so much betting between now and kickoff, and then also after kickoff.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Doug, for joining on location. Thank you guys for joining our show. We love doing this the entire season for you
Yeah.
guys, and we're going to work with DubClub and hopefully continue to do this into the basketball season and hockey season and baseball season. So thank you again so much, guys, and make sure you guys follow DubClub as well. See ya.
Bye bye from Radio Row. Thank you.